Well, good morning. I want to thank those who are here in attendance to participate in this press conference. I'm delighted to welcome some friends here to Queen's Park today. I'll introduce them. We have Joe Dale, who is here, Addie Greco-Sanchez, who's the president of AGS Rehab Solutions. In the gallery, we also are joined by Terry Cloutier, Sharon Emmett, Tanya Emmett, and Keith McShan. And a very special guest, someone who has helped me a lot to learn about the issues of the challenges that face persons with disabilities in the province of Ontario, someone who is a champion for those issues, and a friend of mine. His name is Kevin McShan, and I'm very, very happy to welcome him here today to Queen's Park. For Kevin McShan, journalism is the lifeblood of his existence. It's a passion and an unwavering desire to achieve the pursuit of excellence. It's what drives him to obtain both perfection, fairness, and objectivity on a daily basis reporting the news. It is both his calling and his passionate obsession. Kevin is a graduate of St. Clair College Journalism, Print and New Media program. His passion lies in telling the stories of people who can't otherwise tell their own individual stories themselves. One of his many accomplishments was receiving the 2012 Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal for reporting on disability issues. Kevin served 4 years as a general assignment reporter at CFTV 34, covering mostly sports and education. He has a deep love and passion for athletics and reporting sporting news in an energetic, informative, and thought-provoking manner. It is something that fuels both his engine of creativity and desire to achieve greatness with each story, interview, and podcast that he produces for the Two Man Advantage podcast, a sports podcasting website and YouTube channel that is his current endeavor. It's an honor to be part of today's conference, and I look forward to hearing how this province, how our government and our leaders can do more to assist those with disabilities in the province of Ontario to search and to acquire gainful, meaningful employment. It's one of the challenges of our province that has, I believe, yet to be fully addressed. Before we do get going, I'd like to show a little brief presentation about what is the exceptionality of Kevin McShan.
This afternoon, I want to talk to you a little bit about discovering your passion and coming up with a pathway of success that works for you. Now, in my judgment, discovering your passion requires each and every one of us to be constantly curious and demand the best from ourselves in our preparation process. So
you'd be surprised, just because Kevin has a disability in cerebral palsy, you wouldn't ever know it unless you've seen him in his wheelchair. If you hear us talking on our podcast and doing a sports show, you wouldn't know the difference because he's throwing out stats and is sometimes 10 yards ahead of us.
My role with the Two Man Advantage podcast happened because I knew Kevin. I did a documentary on him for a school project, and it's because of that documentary that I found out about the Two Man Advantage, and Nick Diesel and Darren DiCarlo and Kevin were coming into the school and doing their podcasts in the DJ booth there.
Well, it's started as an idea. A good friend, Nick Diesel, wanted to do a sports podcast. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, I would love to be involved. And me and him came up with the concept and the idea. And he told me about Kevin McShan and how he has, cerebral palsy, but he's very, interested in sports, and he's very, driven young man. And he said he'd love to be involved in this. I'm like, sure, that'd be great.
There's more layers to this cake. I think Kevin really has the opportunity to do something special here. I think Kevin is very knowledgeable. I think Kevin has passion for sports. I think Kevin is a very talented reporter and asks some great questions.
He's been great. He's a great, reporter, a great journalist. He asks very thought-provoking questions. We went to Michigan State Media Day, and I think he really, surprised a lot of players and coaches with his very insight and thoughtful questions.
The first thing I noticed about him is that he was such a hard worker. He's so intelligent. He's always the nicest guy, and usually he's the smartest guy in the room. And the first time I worked with him, we had to go interview somebody. And when I interview people, I have papers with me. I'm reading over my questions to make sure I have them right. No, Kevin, it's all up here. He prepares to the point of perfection, and it's incredible. It really is.
We want to do a little bit of everything. We want to be able to do podcasts, which is kind of like a radio show. We want to be able to do video stuff. We want to be able to do print stuff, as in writing blogs and giving news updates and everything on our website. So I think Kevin McShan can do a little bit of everything, and especially when he has this disability, you'd be surprised what he can do.
My thoughts about people with disabilities being in the workplace. Why not? I mean, if you've watched any of the Two Man Advantage podcasts or listened to him or just met Kevin, his disability, you don't even see it when you talk to him. His personality is so upfront.
That sends a great message to anyone who has a disability. Like, if you are passionate about something, go ahead and do it. Don't let your disability stand in your way of achieving what you want in life.
He's really the heartbeat that makes this work.
Just before we begin, I'd like to give special recognition and thanks to two of my colleagues that are here today. Monique Taylor, the member for Hamilton Mountain, and Cindy Forrester, the member for Welland, both who are intimately aware and involved in issues that face people with disabilities in the province of Ontario. With that, I hand the floor over to my good friend, Kevin McShan.
First of all, good morning, and thank you for being here. Being able to speak on behalf of people with disabilities is both an honor and a pleasure. If given the opportunity, their abilities, education, and skill set could speak to the needs of Ontario's labour market. The full inclusion of individuals with disabilities would demonstrate an inclusive Ontario, one that demonstrates acceptance and prosperity. It would be a place where we all live and all persons have the ability to thrive and flourish. Demanding excellence, assisting and guiding others is a key mission which fuels my engine to make a difference each day and affect people in an effective and positive way. It's within that spirit, ladies and gentlemen, I say good morning and thank you for being here. My name is Kevin McShan, and I come before you today as someone who has defied the odds and overcome adversity to experience the fruits of both success and accomplishments. I've lived my entire life with spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy, but rather than dwelling on my personal restrictions, the best gift I could ever give to the world is to celebrate my life and its lessons. It's on that platform I come before you this morning to share my personal story and to request a call for action for unity and bipartisanship and giving people with disabilities equal opportunity to infuse themselves into the workforce. This is an underutilized and untapped segment of our population, which could both diversify and strengthen our labor market. Living a full and productive life shouldn't be a right, shouldn't be a privilege, but rather a right shared by all people. And it is my mission as a journalist and motivational speaker to foster environments of acceptance and inclusion by promoting environments of success, allowing for both the business community, agencies, and individuals to have success. Everyone deserves to dream about the promise of tomorrow while also ensuring the riches of today. It is my hope that the Ontario government takes immediate and swift action in addressing this issue. The full inclusion of people with disabilities would ensure the future success of Ontario's labor market. And finally, I ask you, what are you willing to do to contribute to the greater good for a better tomorrow? For the time is now to remember that we all have a voice that deserves to be heard. I thank you for your time and consideration.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. We'll now hear from Joe Dale.
Good morning. My name is Joe Dale, and I'm the Executive Director of the Ontario Disability Employment Network. And I'm going to focus my comments on a call to action for the business community. People don't often understand disability, and I think it's important that we shed some light on that. There are over 1.9 million people with disabilities living in Ontario today. That represents 16% of the population. When you add to this the family and loved ones of people with disabilities, that represents 53% of the population. And this number of people with disabilities is growing exponentially as the population ages. While statistics related to unemployment for people with disabilities vary, any way you cut it, the number of people who are not in the workforce is appalling. Statistics Canada reports that only 51% of working-age adults participate in the labor market, and of those, 26% are unemployed. Unemployment for people with disabilities is not just a social issue, it's an economic issue. And there are compelling, if not overwhelming, reasons why we should be concerned about helping people with disabilities get into the workforce. This year, taxpayers will spend over $4 billion on income support for people with disabilities who are not in the workforce or who are underemployed. And this has been growing between 5 and 8% per year over the past 5 years. While this isn't the biggest expenditure in the provincial budget, it is one of the fastest growing expenditures in the budget. At the same time, businesses are missing out on a pool of valuable talent that could fill important roles in their workplaces. Revenue losses in business and tax losses in government due to unfilled vacancies in the labor market are unprecedented. Yet still, people with disabilities are shut out of the workforce. Attitude is the key barrier as to why people with disabilities are not getting jobs. Attitude that is formed based on stereotypes and the myths and misconceptions prevail. People are afraid. The real facts demonstrate that not only can people with disabilities make a valuable contribution to the workplace, but in many cases, they actually outperform their non-disabled peers. Studies, surveys, and reports all confirm employees with disabilities routinely demonstrate better attendance records, lower turnover, better safety records, greater contribution to workplace innovation, and equal, if not higher, productivity. Take the U.S. pharmacy giant Walgreens as an example. 47% of their employees in the Connecticut Distribution Center have a disability. Many of those are significant disabilities: autism, Down syndrome, mental health disabilities, and so forth. That distribution center has had the highest productivity rating of any distribution center in the chain every year since opening in 2007. Not only that, but they have seen a 40% reduction in safety incidents, 67% reduction in medical costs, 63% reduction in absenteeism, and an overall reduction in employee costs of 78%. Here in Toronto, Tim Hortons franchisee Mark Wafer can testify to similar cost savings and improved profitability. With 17% of his workforce being comprised of people with disabilities, he experiences a 38% turnover rate when the industry standard for quick service restaurants is 94.5%. That's all bottom line profits as far as he's concerned, and not a single workplace insurance claim for his disabled employees in 20 years. Who wouldn't want that record and the profits that go with it? You know, this is not rocket science. It's as easy as just asking the person, what can we do to help you be successful in this job? Is that really any different than what we should be doing for any hire in business? On top of that, there are service agencies that can help everywhere in the province. Every community of this province has at least one and often more service agencies that are there to help. These agencies have pools of candidates looking for jobs, and they take the time to match their candidates with the business's needs. But they don't stop there. Many will also provide businesses with job coaches to help with the onboarding process and initial job training. And they'll be just a phone call away if you have any questions or concerns down the road. Businesses should look at these employment agencies as a resource and as a recruitment consultant with a specialty. Globally, there are 1.3 billion people with disabilities in the world today. That's equal to the population of China. Wouldn't you want a piece of that market? We need a shift in attitude, ladies and gentlemen, and the time is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We'll now hear from Addie Greco-Sanchez, who is the president of AGS Rehab Solutions.
Thank you. Imagine having these folks on your payroll: Stephen Hawking, Franklin Roosevelt, Helen Keller, and Ralph Braun. You may not have heard of him, but Ralph Braun, born with muscular dystrophy, discovered the world's first electric scooter in 1963, and later the world's first wheelchair lift. The solution to his own mobility needs eventually led to Braunability, a worldwide company that has helped millions of people with disabilities become an integral part of society. Barack Obama called Ralph Braun a champion of change. He was what everyone calls disabled, but he never let that label hold him back. He said, "I just had to walk the extra mile," or in my case, roll the extra mile. Because of Ralph Braun's ingenuity, what began in his garage grew into a worldwide corporation in just 20 years. Imagine having Ralph's drive and talent in your organization. People with disabilities have changed the world with their abilities. They teach us that when something bad happens, you have the choice to let it strengthen you rather than define or destroy you. Disabled people can teach us so much about the human body and the human psyche, lessons of resilience that everyone around them can benefit from. The disabled represent a largely untapped pool of experienced, educated, and dependable employees. We've seen some of those examples this morning. They don't want easy. They only want possible. They want opportunities. They want to prove that the disability hasn't won. Hiring people with disabilities is not only the right thing to do, it is also a smart business decision that can improve the bottom line. As the owner of a small business in Ontario, providing disability management services to insurers and employers, I can tell you that placing disabled workers in competitive employment opportunities is not an easy task. We prefer to focus on one's abilities rather than one's disabilities. Many disabled workers are so grateful for a job that they actually work harder. Real-world business experience with the disabled has proven that employees with disabilities are not absent any more than those without disabilities, and accommodation in most cases costs nothing or next to nothing. Further, a DuPont study showed that 90% of workers with disabilities received good or excellent performance ratings. Hiring people with disabilities is more than a good business decision. It is a sound moral decision, a test of our civility and richness as a diverse culture. Let's not let the myths and fear about disability add to the limitations of impairment. In the words of Stephen Hawking, however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. Let's create a world where each diverse human gift finds a place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Addie. As we've heard today, there's much more we can do. Today is about calling on the provincial government to step up and to take real and tangible efforts and action on enhancing the lives and the opportunities for people with disabilities in the province of Ontario. I want to thank those in attendance today and our friends who joined us, and we look forward to a response from the government that provides some hope and opportunity and vision for those who are working towards this very important goal. Thank you very much.